It's time for the Phil Ferguson Show.
This is Phil Ferguson, and you are listening to the Phil Ferguson Show. Yes, I'm still in Florida right now, and it is still hot. Not as hot. It was surprising yesterday. I went outside. It was a high of 93, which almost kind of didn't feel awful because we've had roughly a high of 99 to 100 degrees for the last 2 weeks, which is abnormally high for Florida. And I know a lot of people around the country and even in other countries that are having higher than normal temperatures. Later in this episode, of course, we are going to have a nice segment on super shitty funds, a crowd favorite, absolutely amazing opportunities here for you to get screwed out of your own money. You're going to love it. I have an update, an additional bit of my car shopping adventure. And then I have a segment on the difference between different types of accounts, like a 401k, an IRA, your taxable account, and where you should add money and what order you should add money. And of course, what order and which accounts maybe you should take money out. And of course, the overriding thing of that entire 20-minute segment is talk to your tax professional. It's fucking complicated. Here's some ideas. So hopefully that helps some people. Back to the Florida temperature thing. The funny thing that for me, at this point in the year, I can go to take a shower, and sometimes you're taking 2 or 3 a day because you're just sweating constantly. Even with the AC on, it gets hot and humid in the house. Although I do have my fancy schmancy dehumidifier in the master bathroom. Absolutely love that freaking machine. New technology, way better than the old timey water dehumidifiers you might find at Lowe's. If you want more information on that, let me know. But the thing that struck me as weird, I'm in the shower and it's hot, which normally you want, but I'm already hot. I don't need hot water. So I keep turning the handle looking for it to lower the temperature. And I want the cold water. I want cooler water. And I keep turning it and I eventually start to turn it off. I'm like, where's the cold water? There is no cold water. There's none to be had because the water supply for our neighborhood and for our house is such a small amount under the surface of the sand that it's not getting that nice cold feeling that you can get in the Midwest, where even on the hottest day, you could go in the shower and use no hot and get really cool water. I don't know, in the 60s, because it's probably several feet under the surface. Well, here it's inches. 6 inches, 9 inches. And after weeks and weeks and weeks of highs of 100 and the sun baking the sand and the grass and the trees and everything, when that water goes through that bit of ground, it's going to be the temperature that it's of the ground. So if the ground is 78 or 80 degrees, that's the temperature of the water you're going to get from the shower from the cold setting. So I didn't notice that last year, but last year it was not this hot in the middle of summer in Florida. But this year it's kind of annoying. There's not a way to take a cold shower unless you come up with some creative way to put ice in a bucket and shower with that. I don't know. But just the water that comes into your house, because the pipes are so warm, the ground is so warm, it's been 99 to 100 degrees every day for weeks, so it's warmed up the ground. There is no cold shower to be had. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else. Nothing else comes to mind, and I know we've got a long show with great stuff, so I'm just going to end the introduction segment here, and I know you're going to enjoy the show.
Hey, poor! You don't have to be poor anymore! Jesus is here!
You're listening to The Phil Ferguson Show.
The cosmos is all that is, or ever was, or ever will be. Our contemplations of the cosmos stir us. There's a tingling in the spine, a catch in the voice, a faint sensation as if a distant memory of falling from a great height. We know we are approaching the grandest of mysteries. The size and age of the cosmos are beyond ordinary human understanding. Lost somewhere between immensity and eternity is our tiny planetary home, the Earth. For the first time, we have the power to decide the fate of our planet and ourselves. This is a time of great danger, but our species is young and curious and brave. It shows much promise. In the last few millennia, we have made the most astonishing and unexpected discoveries about the cosmos and our place within it. I believe our future depends powerfully on how well we understand this cosmos in which we float like a mote of dust in the morning sky.
The Phil Ferguson Show is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on the show should be interpreted as personalized investment advice. Investments should be based on your personal situation, and you, of course, should consult with your financial advisor or tax professional before taking any actions. It's time for some super shitty funds, like plural. I got a couple of them here. And it's funny because they just send me stuff, right? This is stuff I get in my email. And I love it how at the bottom of the email, they often say, this is confidential information and you can't share it. Yeah, screw you. You spammed me. I'm going to share whatever the fuck I want. So there. It's the Spectrum family of funds. And the first one is the Spectrum Low Volatility Investor. So when you hear low volatility, you would expect it to not go up and down as dramatically as other investments. Maybe something like the cushion. It might go down, it might go up, but not a whole lot. Well, this fund fails. And of course, there's no regulatory requirements to the best of my knowledge in naming conventions. You can call it whatever you want. And this is a bond fund. Let's see. But is it? So I'm at Morningstar.com, which anyone can go look. This fund, its symbol is SVARX. So the thing that's really weird, apparently it's a bondish fund. Even on Morningstar, there is confusion here because it's rated A negative or A. And the best is AAA, which the U.S. government has kind of sort of now. And then below that's AA and then A or A negative, depending on which company you're looking at. But when I look at the breakdown of the bond holdings, below A is BBB, and that's the lowest rating you can get to not be a junk bond. That's 3% of the portfolio. 43% is BB, which is worse, and 45% is B, and then there's another 7% that's below B, C, double C, whatever, doesn't matter. It's junk. It's crap. It's worse than junk. But so in one place it's A minus, but if you look at it, it's probably around B. So that's a whole step below the cutoff to be junk. So I'm not opposed to junk bond funds, but junk bonds usually aren't low volatility. Another way of looking at this is the asset allocation, as shown on Morningstar's website. And it has U.S. stocks, 0, non-U.S. stocks, 0, cool. Fixed income, 20%, other, 53%, cash 27%. What is that other? So to me, this suggests that they're doing games, shorts, options, puts, calls, straddles, some fancy stuff that's always very expensive. But the thing that's really funny, if you look at the cash line, it is 27.5% cash, but it's not really, because they're short 52% cash and long 80% cash. So again, that supports the idea that they're doing creative stuff, which, okay. Let's look at performance here real quick. So year to date, it's made 0.66. And that's low volatility because it's not really moved. I mean, whether you want it to go up or down, it's not relevant. It's low volatility. But over the last year, it's down 1.30 when virtually all bonds and stocks are up over the last year. And over the last 3 years, it is up 2% per year. And let's see, the average bonds are 4%, and this has made 2%. So wow, just everything I look at. Let me take a look over here. I want to see if it's a load. I didn't check that. I don't see anything here for a load. I do see that the turnover, where did I see that? On Yahoo was like 260%. So every few weeks they're monkeying around. That's not going to lead to low volatility, which is why it has high volatility. I was going to look at that. The performance number. I did see something that was weird. Let's see. No, that's okay. They have 1 year they're up 24%. Again, that's volatility. I mean, it's great. But if you wanted bonds with low volatility, you made a killing that 1 year. But then there's other years where it's down, very divergent from bonds in total. So that's kind of weird. Let me see. Go back here to the quote part. Absolutely fantastic here. The expense ratio, which, by the way, the average fund is around 1.3, 1.5%. The index funds that I use from Vanguard are generally less than 0.1. This is 2.67. So 26 to 50 times higher than an index fund. So if you're in bonds that are now paying, well, and 2 years ago, they're paying 1%, 2%, 3%. If your expense ratio is 2.67%, that's going to be brutally difficult to get past. The current yield on this portfolio is 1%, which does not make any sense to me because they're using risky bonds. Well, it's probably the creative investments don't count towards the yield, I guess. So yeah, this is a super shitty fund. I don't see anything here for a front end load. And I went and looked at their spec sheet. And of course, when they send me the email, it has very selective data that they tell me about. From their, what is this called here? The low spectrum fund fact sheet. High yield bonds, 41%. Mortgage-backed securities, 17%. High yield credit default swaps, 20%. Municipal, 10%. Preferred bonds, preferred stocks, 10%. Floating rate, which generally is incredibly short term and goes with the going market rate. And that is 36%. And the funny thing is, it all adds up to 134%. So that's on the published document without any disclosure that they're short stuff. So I don't know what they're short because they didn't do that. So it's something I have no interest in. Expense ratio 2.67. It's called low volatility. It's not. Just thought you guys might find that fascinating. The other one, because they sent me multiple emails and I just picked the first two, is the, where's the name for this other one? Spectrum Active Advantage Investor Fund, SAPEX. And this is self-described as a tactical fund. And so they have a scheme, they have a plan, they have a strategy, whether it's by their whim or whatever, where they can jump in and out of all kinds of things. The expense ratio on this is 1.69%. So a lot lower than the 2.67, whatever the last one was. The turnover on this, you're going to love this. The turnover is 2,258. 2,258. So if you changed everything in the fund once during a calendar year, your turnover would be 100%. So to have a turnover of 2,300 roughly, rounding, means that you're completely exchanging everything in the fund about every 2.5 weeks. So they change their mind all the time. This is the opposite of buy and hold. This is buy and sell. I mean, this is just straight up. For calendar year 22, it lost 38% when the market was down 18. Previous years, they did okay. And then in 2018, they're down 4%. Just, again, wickedly expensive, wicked high turnover. If you have this in a taxable account, your taxes are going to be pretty darn high. Now, let me see if I can get some long-term numbers here. 1 year minus 8.25, and this is Morningstar. I'm in August of 23. When the market is up 10, 12, 15%, down 8. The average 3-year return is minus 3, and the 5-year return is 2.5% when the market is up, 10, 12% per year. It's making 2.5. Absolutely horrific. Oh, let's look at the portfolio tab. What is it investing in? Large cap blend or large cap growth makes it worse. And again, they're playing games here because in Morningstar, the asset allocation, U.S. stocks 0, non-U.S. stocks 0, fixed income 0, other 0, cash 100%. Is that just today, the day that they pulled it? But they're probably, again, like I said, doing very, very fancy and expensive and complicated things. Let's see. Historically, the balance, this fund has been large cap value. It has been large cap growth. It's been a bond fund. It's all over the place. So also uses a lot of, it says right here, United States Treasury bills 0%. So those are 0% U.S. coupon bonds is currently 87% of the portfolio. And now it might actually be higher than that because it only just has the top 2 listings here. But 87% or more of the portfolio is 0 coupon bonds issued by the United States government. I've talked about those before. Not a good thing for you to invest in. Generally speaking, they have their place, but probably not for you. So they have these, just chaos. One last thing I thought I saw, double checking here. Yes, total assets of the fund, 7.2 million. 7.2 million. That could be money from the founders of the company, from the people that own the company. It could be a lot of clients, but it could be a couple of clients. 7.2 million. I mean, Polaris Financial Planning, my business, currently has assets under management of around 110 million. So 7.2 million is pretty small, absolutely wickedly small. So again, something that I'm not interested in. So based on these 2 funds, they're just playing games. They want advisors like me to sell it, recommend it. Maybe I could call and ask what I get out of it. But Spectrum funds, absolutely awful. And that is this episode's examples, 2 of them, of super shitty funds.
A lot of people come up here and they thank Jesus for this award. I want you to know that no one had less to do with this award than Jesus. He didn't help me a bit. If it was up to him, Caesar Milan would be up here with that damn dog. So all I can say is, suck it, Jesus. This award is my God now.
You're listening to The Bill Ferguson Show.
This is a second segment on buying a car. I will talk about the car more later, but just so you know, It is, because it's in my garage now. It is an Ioniq 6. And like I said, I will do a whole segment on some of my thoughts and likes and dislikes and why I ended up going with this car. But anyway, last episode I talked about going to a dealership and it didn't go well. Well, I went to a second dealership. Clearly it went better because the car is now in my garage. Of course, we showed up and found the version of the car that I would be okay with. There were certain things that I wanted to do, to have, to get, and we were able to find those. And this dealership had on the internets, it showed $1,500 off MSRP, which I know is still not particularly a great deal for a car, but it's a car in relatively hot demand, and the trim level that I wanted is even harder to find. So that weakens one's ability to negotiate and haggle, because if I don't buy it, someone else probably will in a few days, few weeks, a couple of months at most, because the inventory is not sitting around. There is, of course, the possibility that a year from now, they would give bigger discounts, but, whatever, you don't know. I did trade in my Chevy Bolt EV, which I adored, absolutely delightful, but the one thing, well, I guess two things, there's probably more than two things, but two things that come to my mind right now. It could only charge at a peak of 55 kilowatt. Charging at home is fine, driving around is fine, driving 500 miles is fine. And you just plan for it, because it's a little bit of a slower charge. You can drive for 2 hours and then spend as much as 30 minutes charging to drive another 2 hours. So you probably don't want to be crisscrossing the country in the Chevy Bolt EV. The other thing, of course, is that it's an economy car, which is nothing wrong with it. It had lots of bells and whistles, but the car actually couldn't really handle the acceleration that it could produce, which may sound odd, but you could definitely feel the car going, or yourself going back in the car in the front, kind of lifting up. And you had to be very careful if you were on any kind of a slippery surface, ice, snow, gravel, a little bit of silt on the road from some unknown source could make it move and slide in ways that I didn't like, but that's okay. So that's gone. So Bolty is gone, and I've got the Ioniq 6. But back to this dealership story. I went in there, and everything went pretty smooth. But when we finally get down to talking the numbers, they lay out the piece of paper with the MSRP, and then they show minus $1,500, and then they show plus $995. And again, because I'm me and I have issues, we all have issues. I have different issues maybe than some of you, maybe the same as some of you. My mind blanks because what? An extra $1,000 for what? And I'm pretty sure the salesman explained what it was for. It was some kind of extra stuff. One of those extra stuffs, the only piece that got through into my head was nitrogen in the tires. Now, for those of you who know a basic amount of chemistry and or physics, understand that the vast majority of the Earth's atmosphere is nitrogen. So filling tires with nitrogen is really close to filling it with air. You could make some kind of argument that it's better for some reason, but I have not heard one that I consider to be sufficient to make any effort to spend more money to have only nitrogen put in car tires. So my brain shut off because I'm like, no, I'm not paying it. And it's one of those things, it became a principle thing for me, where it's like, I don't care how good of a deal you give me somewhere else. You are not adding on $1,000 of bullshit. The previous dealer was $7,000 of stuff. This one apparently was only $1,000. And I said no. And my wife, who normally shies away from these situations, she does not like the haggling, the negotiating, the going back and forth. She chimed in and she's like, absolutely not. Your website said minus $1,500. It did not say plus $995. So that makes your website at best misleading. And this is completely and totally unacceptable. And we're going to walk if this stays on the bill. And of course, our salesman's like, well, I'll go talk to the boss. I'll go talk to the sales manager or whoever he has to go talk to see if he can get it off. He'll try to do us a favor. And I really, really dislike that kind of stuff. You're not doing me a favor. You tried to fuck me out of $1,000, and you know it, and your boss knows it. The owner of the dealership knows it, and now you're going to do me a favor. So, not really enamored by that, but we did have pretty close to the price we wanted, reasonable amounts for the trade-ins, and here was a fun little bit. So, I actually had two vehicles to trade in, my Chevy Bolt and an 03 van, which I tried a little bit to sell myself, and I could have tried the Bolt to sell by myself, but it becomes sufficient enough amount of work, and I don't know that I really want people coming by the house on a regular basis to come check out the car and drive it around, and I don't know, it's definitely easier to sell it to a dealership, but they gave me a number for the two cars, a number I was not happy with. And I said, well, okay, you know what? I'll come back. And they're like, what do you mean you'll come back? And I said, what? CarMax. Yes, that's the name of the company. I had already gotten online quotes from CarMax. And I said, CarMax was willing to pay thousands and thousands of dollars more for these vehicles. And he's like, well, that's just an online thing. When you show up, they're going to pay you less than that. And I said, maybe, but it's not going to be so much less that it equals your price. And they said, well, but you get tax credit. Whatever you trade in, you don't have to pay sales tax on for the new car. That rule was in Illinois. That rule is in Florida. I don't know if your state has it, but it's kind of a convenient thing if you want to trade in a car. And so, of course, they say, well, how much? How much did they offer you? And I said, well, I've got the emails here for the confirmations. And they're like, well, okay, just tell us what it was. And I told them the amount for the van, which, again, it's a 20-year-old vehicle. I'm not kidding myself. I'm not going to get a ton of money for it. So I just told them I was offered $2,100 from CarMax. But then when it came to the Bolt, there was a price that I was offered from CarMax, which was not that great. And so I said out loud a bigger number than what CarMax had told me. Now, I don't know. I was kind of misleading there, not truthful. AKA lied, but they also lied about the 995. So this is what we're doing today, right? That this is how this is going to work. He takes it to his boss and he comes back and they agreed to pay only like $200 or $300 less than the numbers I gave them. And because the one number was bigger than what CarMax had said, the price that they offered me was still a little bit bigger than what CarMax had offered me. And it changed probably by about $3,000 to $4,000, maybe a little bit more. So that was pretty cool. And I kind of feel like I got an extra $1,000, $1,200, $1,400 because I gave a higher trade-in price than what CarMax had actually offered me, because they want to pay as little as possible, but they want to beat that deal because the car dealership selling a vehicle to somebody, they don't want you to leave and think about it and come back later to buy it. They really, really want you to buy it today, because if you leave, odds are you're not going to come back, or you're going to go to a different place like I have already done. So a reasonable amount of money and get the trade in. And the key thing for me on this car was that Hyundai was offering 1.9% financing or rebates. So now I'm going to take a minute to walk you through how this math worked out in my head. Or maybe I should just say how this math worked out in a spreadsheet. But anyway, you get the idea. I had gotten down to two possibilities. One was the much more economical version, because the Ioniq 5 has 3 tiers of features, I guess. And the one of the base model versions of the car is EPA rated for 361 miles. And I really wanted the 361 miles. The version I ended up buying is the 3rd tier. So base, middle, to top, I guess. And it has a lot of cool things. And we all want a lot of cool things, but then you have to pay for a lot of cool things. And the weird thing is that the base and the second tier had $5,000 rebates, which one could argue is better than the financing, the lower financing. So you either get $5,000 rebate or you get special financing if you qualify. But for some reason on the third tier, the rebate was only $2,000. So not that big of an amount of money, but the base model with all the features that I would want, with all the features that came with it, the one that gets 361 miles of range, that was about $47,000. After the $5,000 rebate, $42,000. But now you still have the problem that are you going to pay the remainder off or are you going to get a loan? Now, this was quite easy a few years ago because car loan rates could easily be 1%, 2%, 3%. And some people save and save and save for years to buy a car with cash. That's cool. You do you. I would rather invest that money and have it grow. And if interest rates are low, you then buy the car and get a long-term loan. And I know this is different than a lot of pulp culture things that are out there, but this is how I think about it. But this car, if I got the base model and I get the $5,000 credit, I'm then going to pay probably around 7% interest for the car loan. Now, 7% is still below the theoretical 10% one might make in the market. But it's kind of close also. So the 7% would be a risk-free guaranteed rate of return if I paid off the loan, if I bought the car instead of getting the loan. So I'm not real excited about paying 7% on a car loan, and maybe I could get the car loan and a year or two from now when rates fall, if they fall, I could refinance again at a lower rate. So that was one thing in my head, but it would add about $9,500 to $10,000 of payments over the 6 years. I'm looking at 72-month loans. So that really wasn't exciting. When I looked at the third level of the car, the $2,000 credit, I'm not particularly interested in that. I'm more interested in the loan. And so for them, the 6-year loan, 72 months, was 1.99%. Now, if you're going to lend me money at 1.99%, I'm very interested. I'm interested. And the difference in the price or what the amount you're going to pay for the vehicles, the lower trim was $52,000 after the $5,000 rebate. The higher trim is going to be about $54,000, $56,000, something like that. But with a 2% interest rate, I would only pay $3,500 in loan or in interest payments on top of the car payment versus $9,500. I'm just rounding. So the total amount of interest you pay is $6,000 less. So even though the price point between the two cars is about $12,000, when I take into account in my head or in my spreadsheet the difference of interest paid over the 6 years, the difference is now only $6,000. Only. I know it's a huge amount of money, but I can get all of the features I wanted in the car for a net increase of $6,000, not an increase of $12,000, because I'm taking a look at what the interest payments are. And also, of course, at 2%, I'm not going to pay it off early, whereas 7%, I was kind of leaning that way, which means the $50,000 plus that I'm not paying on the car can stay in the market and be invested. And even if it only makes 7%, see, now with the car, it kind of would have been a push. But if I make 7% for 6 years, let's just call it $60,000. The $60,000 would grow by $30,000 to $40,000 to $50,000. And of course, I'm paying $3,500 in interest, whatever. There's no guarantee it will grow that way. I'm just looking at the mathematical probabilities, the historical norms of market returns. But I'm going to make a whole bunch of money on the investments that I did not sell to buy the car for cash because Hyundai was going to lend me all of the money at 1.99%. Now, the reason I use $60,000, even though the car doesn't cost that much, is because the Bolt that I was trading in was upside down. Now, there's a couple of complicated factors involved here, and one of them was my doing, and I'll own that, because when I first bought the car, I got something like 4.5% interest. And then 2 years later, when interest rates for car loans were really low, I refinanced it back out to 72 months anew. So 6 years of payments on top of the 2 year of payments that I made, because my goal was to borrow the money for as long as humanly possible. And in that case, at 3%. So the price of the Bolt over the last 4 years since I bought it, the MSRP has dropped again and again and again, which is great for people buying that car. Not great for people who already own the car. So if you can buy a Bolt, a Chevy Bolt now new, which you can, at $35,000 that has all the features that my car has, and you get a $7,500 rebate, which is so 35 minus 7,500, we're just going to round it, call it 28,000. 35,000 minus 7,500, 28,000, sorry. There's no way I could sell mine for 28 because someone could go buy a new car. So it's a 4-year-old car. How much is the depreciation? It's this all about the supply and demand. And one of the problems with the Bolt, and one of the reasons I wanted to get a different electric car, is that really slow charging speed for when you're out on the road. Totally doable. And if you have time to spare, but no money to spare, excellent freaking car. But for me, saving a couple of hours here and there, I could be working. I could be recording the podcast segment. I could be talking to a client. So that time is pretty darn valuable, and I don't have a lot of free time, so I don't want to spend it sitting at a charger. Whereas if maybe you're 20, 25, 30, 35, getting your first electric car, the Chevy Bolt is still a nice vehicle. So those were a lot of the things that I was thinking about, the loan, the interest payments. So I was upside down on the Bolt. Well, the funny thing is they pulled my credit score, and I haven't looked at it for a while. It came up with 834, which I'm pretty darn happy about, 834. So they took the amount that I still owed on the Bolt and added it to the car loan for the Ioniq 6. So my total loan is about $60,000, which is $3,000 or $4,000 more than what I owed on the car. And again, the only reason I owed money on the car is because I got a long-term loan at the beginning and then refinanced to another long-term loan to avoid paying all the money on the car, and in doing so, getting still a low interest rate. But the funny thing here is that the amount I still owed on the Bolt got added to the loan for the Hyundai Ioniq 6, and now it went from 3% to 2%, a part that I owed on the Bolt. So I'm still kind of sort of paying on the Bolt, which some people would find reprehensible, I don't know, offensive, but I'm avoiding making those payments and borrowing that money still. And I look at the time value of money. So all of the money that I now have this loan for, around $60,000, that I'm paying 2% interest on it, I could have sold some investments and paid for it. But why would I do that when someone's going to lend me money at 2%? So anyway, that's the second dealership visit. That's my thought process on loans and financing and how you can do it. And of course, this is not right for everybody. If you don't have a constant, reliable, and comfortable income stream, you may not be able just to go, give me another loan. I get it. I understand. But it's just something to think about. Maybe if you have some funds and if you can get a ridiculously low interest rate, 2% in my case, on a car, don't buy the car. Get a loan for the car, pay the 2% interest as long as they'll let you, and take that money that you would have paid on the car and invest it. You're going to make more than you're going to pay in interest. So that's car story 2. And probably in the next episode, I'm going to go over the car, what it can do, and why it was of interest to me. The Phil Ferguson Show is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing said on the show should be interpreted as personalized investment advice. Investments should be based on your personal situation, and you, of course, should consult with your financial advisor or tax professional before taking any actions. This Investing Skeptically segment is about different types of accounts, different types of tax rates, where you should add money, and maybe for some of you, more importantly, where should you take out money? And of course, like a lot of things, it's complicated. So I'm going to share some thoughts on this. It may or may not apply to you. But the one thing that I think will equally apply to everybody, particularly when you're in the process of, or close to the process of starting to remove money for your benefit in retirement, have a tax professional. Have someone that helps you with your taxes. And it's one thing to bring them everything at the end of the year or right after the year ends and say, key all this in and make my taxes. That's cool. That's a nice service. You may or may not want to pay for it. The more complicated your taxes get, the more likely you're going to want to pay for it. But one thing you can do with your tax professional, a lot of people don't, is schedule a time, and maybe they'll give you a little bit of time for free because you just paid for your taxes to be done. Maybe they charge you, but sit down with them when it's not tax time, when it's not days or weeks before your taxes are due, when they have some extra time and flexibility, and talk to them about your situation and give them all the details and go over, here are my choices. Here are the things that I can do. Which one should I do? So some thoughts from me. After, of course, don't rely on this. Go to your tax professional. When adding money, here is the order of events in my head as I see them. If you have a job that provides you a 401k, a 403b, or some other kind of pension, retirement account, whatever, you want to give serious consideration to adding money to that first, but not always. See, so the thing that's the most important is your employer giving you a matching funds. A common way this might be phrased is that they'll give you 50% of whatever you put in up to the first 6%, therefore they're contributing 3%. So that 3%, to me, I call that free money. You must always collect free money, unless there's some reason it's a bad idea. And in general, this is a good idea. Collect the free money, because not only would you be saving 6% for yourself, but you're going to get 3% from your employer. All of the other possible options that are available to you will never be as good as you getting that 3% of additional money tax-free, for now anyway, tax-free, tax-deferred. So you want to do that. That's their first priority. If they're going to match 100% of the first 10% that you put in, don't be a dumbass. Do the math. Put in 10%, they give you 10%, right? So you have to know what your employer is going to do. Another thing to think about, and again, it gets complicated. If you can put in even more in your 401k or 403b, you might want to. In the past, when I've had some nice high-paying jobs, I would put 100% of my paycheck into the 401k, and by March, I had maxed out the 401k. And that was okay for me because it was a good place for me to put money. It was even a place where the employer did not give any match, so I wasn't getting any free money. But if you're getting free money and you have the means to max out your 401k contributions in the first 3, 6, 9 months of the year, caution, pay attention, talk to HR, read the documents. Will your employer match money only when you're putting money in? So if you put in $500 and they match $500, that's cool. But if you max out your 401k contributions, let's say in September, and therefore you don't add anything October, November, December, there might not be anything for them to match. So maybe if you put in a slightly smaller amount and it went all the way through all 12 months, they would do the matching all 12 months. So check into that. This is complicated stuff, and I found many, many times where HR people don't know all the rules, and they've got a lot of other things taking their time, so they're very busy. You might end up calling the custodian or the qualified custodian, hopefully, that holds your 401k account and investments. That could be Fidelity, Schwab, Vanguard, T. Rowe Price, hundreds and hundreds of other companies. they might be able to answer your questions, because there's a ginormous list. And when I set up the plan for my company, 100+ pages of questions. Can you do this? Yes or no. Can you do this? Yes or no. And so every plan is different. So it's something you might have to check with them, because the HR people might not know all these little details. So first thing, if you have an employer plan that gives you matching or free money, you must collect that first. Absolute. Now, if they don't match anything, maybe now you want to hold off on a 401k. And then the next thing you want to look at is either an IRA or a Roth IRA. The big difference here, of course, in the IRA, if you put in $5,000, your taxable income for that year is reduced by $5,000. Yay. And you get to invest and reinvest the dividends and the interest and delay taxes until you're 75. Now, I mean, if you're 72 or 73 right now, you can't go to 75. That's the rules. But if you're younger than that, you can push all of this off until you're 75 years of age. And one would presume at that point in time, your income might be lower, or at least lower than it was in your 50s and 60s. Maybe not lower than when you were in your 20s because inflation, but lower than you were in the 50s and 60s. Of course, there is some assumptions that you have to make. As an example, will taxes in the future be higher than they are today? I'm leaning towards yes, because they're going to have to be, but will they? I don't know. And so you may pay higher taxes in the future for avoiding taxes now. But if you can compound that money for decades, that'll offset higher tax rates, if there even are higher tax rates. But what can happen is if you get close to retirement, you have a big portfolio and you expect to make good money in retirement. And a great question for your CPA: how much tax do I save by putting money into my IRA or 401k now versus the tax rate I'll have to pay in retirement? It might be that your income is low enough that the taxes you avoid are 15, 20, 25%, but your portfolio is big enough that when you pull out money in retirement, you might actually be in a higher tax bracket. So consider no longer giving money to an IRA or 401k when you're getting a few years away from retirement. And again, like everything, this depends. It depends on a lot of shit. If 90% of your money, for whatever reason, is in a taxable account, I'm now much more interested in you putting money in your IRA, Roth IRA, or 401k, because you want to have some or more of your money sheltered. If you have something like 90% of your money is already in IRAs, Roth IRAs, or 401ks, 403bs, all of these tax qualified accounts, now I'm more interested in you adding money to a taxable account so that you can take that money out, and any appreciation from the index funds that you own, you'll only pay probably 15% tax on the appreciation. So you could actually end up paying net less taxes if you pay what you owe up front and then only 15% on the gains. What you take out of the IRA might be 25 to 37% on the gains because it counts as income when you take it out. So again, it depends. Now, I do like Roth IRAs. I'm often not motivated to move money from IRAs to Roth IRAs because you have to pay the tax on everything that you've already made. But if you have money to add this year, adding to your Roth IRA might be a good idea. So for many people, you put into your 401k whatever you need to get the free match, the free money. That's step one. Step two would be either an IRA or a Roth IRA. In general, and of course your situation can be different, I'm more inclined to use the Roth IRA, pay the tax now and avoid paying taxes in the future. But that might not be the best case for you, and it might not be the best case for you this year, and next year it might be better for you. You also have to qualify to put money into an IRA or a Roth IRA. If you don't have earned income, well, you can't participate in an IRA or a Roth IRA. If you are single and make too much money, or if you're married and make too much money, again, you may not be able to participate and add new money to an IRA or a Roth IRA. But let's assume there's two of you, you make reasonable money, but not a ton of money. you both qualify to put money into Roth IRAs. I would then put in whatever I have to put in to get the free money at the 401k, and then put money in, if you're married, to his IRA and her IRA, or her IRA and her IRA, however it works for your family. Put money into those Roth accounts, the Roth IRAs, until they're maxed. Now, when I say until they're maxed, because what you might want to do is sit down in advance and figure out how much can you do. So if you know that you can put $5,000 in your 401k and get a $5,000 match, you can plan that now. You don't have to put it all in day one. You plan that for the next 12 months. If you can put in $7,500 into 2 Roth IRAs and you know that in advance, cool. That's the amount of money you can save. If you can save more than that, and you know that in advance, at the beginning of the year, that you can save more than that, considerably more than that, well, then you know you're going to fund the Roth IRAs. And if you're doing the Roth IRAs, you can't do traditional deductible IRAs because it's a limit per person per year. Then, of course, you could set a higher amount of money to be contributed to your 401k. Boy, that sounds like a lot. I hope that helps somebody. If it confused you, my apologies. You, of course, can send me an email, phil@polarisfinancialplanning.com. Keeping in mind, if it's a work-related plan, I can only talk about it in generalities. Generalities? Not specific to you, because I can't give specific investment advice on anything to do with ERISA plans or work-related plans because of the rules the Department of Labor made. Now, I'm going to transition to the idea of taking money out. Where do you take it out first? So, of course, one of the questions is, are you still working? You can start Social Security at 62, but if you're working at some job, part-time, full-time, half-time, you work 1 month at your former job and you have 1 month off because they really still need your services and they agree to pay you half as much and you do half the work and you're both okay with that, that can be very cool for a lot of people. Not everybody can do that, of course. But if you're going to make some kind of reasonable amount of money as earned income, you want to delay Social Security payments as long as you're in that situation. And again, I've had segments on that. You can search for them. Now that I'm thinking about it, I should have my Social Security expert back on because every time he's on, I learn stuff. And I've been studying this for 2 decades, almost 3. It's complicated. So again, talk to your tax professional. If you're a year or 2 out from getting Social Security, I strongly recommend that you schedule an appointment or see if your local office from the Social Security Administration allows walk-ins. You want to go in and sit with somebody and say, how does this work? How much am I going to get? How much is my partner going to get? When can I take it? When should I take it? I'm going to work this part-time job for the next 3 years. How will that affect the amount of money I get and that amount of money that I don't get? What would the tax rates be on the Social Security income? Collect all that information because there's so many variables. I can't give you a straight general answer specific to you in reference to Social Security. I can talk about it in general terms, and there's some things to know. But one of the big things is if you're making income, a reasonably good income, and you don't need the Social Security money, put it off. But there's other people that have a great job. They just want to retire as soon as possible, and they're going to collect Social Security as soon as possible, and they're going to live off stock sales, dividends, interest, their portfolio, their investments. They're not going to work at a job anymore. Why wait for Social Security? So there's that. But of course, Social Security, whatever the rate of tax you're going to have to pay, you're going to have to pay tax on that. If you have a pension, you're going to have to pay probably tax on that, unless your state is a 0% income tax on your retirement income. So again, your tax professional will know that. There's no way I know that number for all 50 states. So you need to have a tax professional and find out what that is going to be. Once you know the things that you're going to take, now the next question, if you need more money, one thing that comes up a lot, should I take money from my taxable account, my IRA, which will be taxable when you take it out, or the Roth, which will have no taxes based on current rules when you take money out? Again, it's complicated. Now, for some people, they've been fantastic their entire lives in adding to and maxing out their 401k or their 403b. And when they get to retirement, 90% of their money is in an IRA. So, because you rolled over the 401k or the 403b to an IRA. So that's probably going to be a pretty important source of your income. And you might be better off starting with your IRA, even though you have to pay taxes on it, if the amount in your taxable income is small and you can leave that behind or leave that alone in the taxable account for emergency cases. If something comes up or you want to remodel the house and you want an extra 30, 40 grand, well, then you could take it out of the taxable account. So one of the reasons for taking money out of the IRA, even at the beginning, which may or may not apply to you, if the portfolio is if the IRA is a large percentage of your retirement account, and or the amount you're going to take out is small enough that it will continue to grow, take some out and kind of balance out your income and try to avoid going over the next tier, whatever that is, assuming that's sufficient income for you to live in retirement. So the money that comes out of the IRA, you'll pay tiers, federal income tax on the schedule. And it might be 15, 18, 24, 25, 32. And what you don't want to do is wait 4 or 5 years and avoid taking all money out of your IRA and then taking out a big chunk or a much higher number and throwing yourself into a higher tax bracket. Again, these can often be very small differences, but if you can do it without a whole lot of effort, by checking with your tax professional, it might save you a few grand a year. And that's nice. It's not going to change the world for a lot of people, but it might change the world for you. So make sure you understand that. Another thing that's really important to think about is when you die, when you pass away, where does your money go? Is it going to a charity? Is it going to your kids? And one of the things that has totally changed the rationale and the logic on this is that if you have an IRA and you pass away and you have 4 kids, let's say, and you clearly detailed what your wishes in the will, and maybe you even set up a trust, and that money goes to the 4 kids, 1/4 each, 25% each. That's fantastic. But the current rules for a Benny IRA, a beneficiary IRA, is that they will have to take out each year based on an actuarial table set up by the IRS based on life expectancy. Usually 2, 3, 4%, unless you passed away in your 90s and your kids are 70s. But for your kids who are in their 40s or 50s, if you're so lucky, they're going to have to take that money out each year and add it to the income. And they might be at some point in their life where they're at peak income and they're going to have to pay taxes on it. If you really want your kids to have the most money possible, depending on your cash flow situation and how much your income is, for the family unit, you might be better off taking out a little bit more money of the IRA and you paying tax on it with your lower income than what your kids are going to have as income in 5 or 10 years when you pass away. You don't have to spend it, although I might suggest that you do, but you could take that money out of the IRA, pay the tax on it. You could take some money out and do a conversion to a Roth IRA. And so that's why it gets so complicated. Which way should you go? It depends on your goals, your desires. Where's the money going to go? What kind of accounts do you have? Is it almost all in an IRA? Is it almost all in a taxable account? So a lot of things to think about and ponder. If you happen to have more than $2 million and you want to have a long discussion on the possibilities and you're not already a client, send me an email, phil@polarisfinancialplanning.com. Of course, you can always talk to your tax professional and sit down outside of tax season and say, here's what I have. Where should I add money or where should I remove money? And hopefully that helps some listeners. Whew, that was a lot. I know, my apologies. But that was some information on how and where to add money and how and where to take money out of in retirement. I do thank you for being here and listening to the Phil Ferguson Show. Just a couple of updates. I know it's very short notice, but I've mentioned it before, but I'm going to BajaCon, and it is the Blue Water Atheists, Humanists, and Agnostics Conference for 2030. What year is it? 2023. Oh my goodness. It is in Canada. Port Edwards and Sarnia. Sounds like it should be Narnia. Sarnia in Canada. I'm going to be there probably only a day or two after you listen to this, or way back in the past, depending on when you're listening. It is in August 25th of 2023. So if you're hearing this before the conference and you still want to go check it out. Just search BahaCon, BAHACON 2023. Let's see what else is going on. Oh, apparently I jacked my back by doing next to nothing a few days ago, and now there's a pinch in the lower spine area. Oh, not good. But I have a ton to do, so these closing comments are particularly short today. If you have a topic suggestion or someone you think I should speak to, interview for the show, of course, it is very helpful to me if this is someone you can actually get in contact with, or you know how to get in contact with. But anyway, this is the end of the episode, the Phil Ferguson Show. Thank you for listening, and I do hope to see you out there on the road sometime soon. Until then, ciao.
Brothers and sisters, prayer is a powerful thing. In these trying times, we pray. We pray hard. But there are some matters where we would be better servants of the Lord by accepting what He is and not bothering Him. Come on! You can't pray the gay away.
You can't pray the gay away.
No matter what your preacher say.
No matter what your preacher say.
There's no fighting DNA. You can't pray the gay away. Mama, oh mama, you can't blame yourself just 'cause your baby boy took your high heels off the shelf. Daddy thought football would make a man of him, but now he spends all his time cruising the gym. You can't pray the gay away.
You can't pray the gay away.
No matter what your preacher say.
No matter what your preacher say.
There's no fighting DNA. You can't pray the gay away. Well, Reverend B, who left the Church of Christ, says he needs reprogramming.
That boy ain't right.
Sent him off to camp where he could get fixed. Half the summer of his life never saw so many dicks. You can't pray the gay way.
You can't pray the gay away.
No matter what your preacher say.
No matter what your preacher say.
There's no fighting DNA. You can't pray the gay away. You may not know it, but you know lots of them. Statistically speaking, 1 out of every 10. Every family's got one. You might call him Auntie Fred. Mama says he's harmless lest he's trying to give you head. Oh, you can't pray the gay way.
You can't pray the gay away.
No matter what your preacher say.
No matter what your preacher say.
There's no fighting DNA. You can't pray the